back guys to part D of our BBA mini-series. Today we're going to be talking about our monthly maintenance checks on the Prado. So similar to the other episodes, we're going to have a general look around the car, just look for any sort of obvious problems, obvious sort of defects, and then we're just going to do the basic safety checks that we should be doing on a monthly basis with the fluids, the tyre pressures, things like that. So starting at the front, we're just going to have a good look around. Similar to the other episodes, we're just going to check the wheel nuts and the tyre pressures. Tyre pressures we want to be around 40 psi, and that one's very low, so 20 psi. So I'm not sure whether I've got a slow leak here or it's just gone down. So what I'll do, I'll put some air in this one and then I'll just keep an eye on that. Also, don't forget to do the spare. The last thing you want to do is have a flat tyre and then the spare's no good. Next job is to pop the bonnet, and then we're just going to check the levels. So we'll check the oil levels, we'll check the steering fluid levels, and we'll also check the coolant. I'll also check the battery voltage, and while the bonnet's up, I'm also just going to hook the compressor up and then just put some air into that tyre. First I'm just going to do a once over, just make sure everything looks okay, that everything's connected, there's nothing come loose, there's no oil sprayed anywhere, there's no coolant sprayed, the battery's connected, hoses are all attached, and there's no splits in the rubber or anything like that. Just make sure all those clamps are done up nice and tight. Then what I'm going to do is just work my way around the engine, looking at all the different fluids and just making sure that the levels are within that minimum and maximum of the containers. Just check the dipstick, make sure you've got plenty of oil. One thing to bear in mind is when you're doing all these checks, just make sure that the car is level. So as with any battery, we're looking for over about 12.4 volts, which is sort of half charged. So 12.25 volts, that's a little bit on the low side, so what I'll probably do is just take it for a bit of a drive just to get that alternator working. It's a pretty new battery, so I don't think there's an issue, it's just the car hasn't been used much lately. For the last job, we're going to use the air compressor just to put some air into that flat tyre. So whenever I run my compressor, I always run the engine as well, so I don't flatten the battery, especially today because it's a little bit lower. So for the car, that's pretty much it. But if you do have a winch, we have one more check that we do. So our winch is pretty new and it's never actually been used, so the last thing we want is to get ourselves in a drama out in the bush to then have the winch fail. So it is a good idea on a monthly basis just to spool the winch out and pull it completely out and just wind it back in again, and what that does is just get grease going around in the bearings so that it doesn't all seize up when you really need it. Next I'm just going to inspect the rope just to make sure there isn't any tears or sort of abrasions in the rope. Then similar to before, I'm going to start the engine and then just activate the winch and winch the rope back in just again to get the grease running around those bearings. So this is a Bluetooth winch controller, so I'm just going to make sure that the battery works, which it does. So when you're winching back in, just make sure there's plenty of tension on the rope, as it will just get sort of tangled up on the spool. That's it guys for this episode. We've got one more for this mini series, and that's when we're going to look at the trailer. If you haven't already, don't forget to smash that subscribe button, follow us on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter, and we'll see you in the next episode with the trailer.